Assalamu alaikum, guys. Welcome to this week's episode of Freshly Grounded with Yusha Evans. This episode is sponsored and brought to you by Suave Timepieces. They've sent me a beautiful watch here that I have not opened. I've saved it for this episode, so I'm going to open it now first. Well, the packaging is beautiful. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you're just going to have to listen to my description of me opening this package, to be fair. But it's come in some, I'll explain it. It's come in some absolutely beautiful packaging, beautiful bag, and an even nicer box. And as I open it, there's a booklet, a little card. I like to smell these things. Oh, look, there's a message. Suave Timepieces. Assalamu alaikum, brother Faisal. I pray you are in the best of health and iman. I hope you'll love your gift. Can't wait to see you, Suave. That's inshallah. Jazakallah khairan for supporting this business. Look forward to meeting you one day and future works. May Allah shower you with shower his unlimited mercy and blessings upon you and your family. Ameen. Wow, what a lovely handwritten message, by the way. And I can't. Can you guys see that on screen? You probably can't. But there we are. Beautiful. I asked him to choose whatever watch he thinks looks best, and he actually chose a blue watch, which is perfect because I'm wearing blue today. I'm gonna just bring this watch to the camera quickly. You can't really see it on the camera. Anyway, guys, listen, as I'm going to put this on, I'm going to tell you about Suave Timepieces. Suave Timepieces has established partnerships with watchmakers around the world with over 60 years in watchmaking experience. They offer simple and elegant luxury and vogue timepieces with a service of the highest quality. They aim to remind each owner of the value of their loved ones to find that true balance in life. Guys, this watch is really cool because it's got an exclusive Arabic dial, which comes with their signature branded gift box, which I showed you. I'm trying to take all the packaging off, but I'm not trying to ruin the watch at the same time. They got limited edition styles. They ship worldwide, and what I love about it basically is that they have Arabic numbers. And I remember when I was first trying to learn Arabic, I switched all of my stuff. I'm just putting the watch on, sorry. I switched on my phone. I switched all of my numbers and letters and everything to Arabic so I could help learn it. So if you're trying to learn the Arabic numbers, you got an Arabic number watch. There you go. It says 10 past 10, which it's not at the moment, but I need to change that. Suave Timepieces, guys, they're giving 10% off to all Freshly Grounded listeners and followers. Just use the code FG10 in checkout on their website, which is suavetimepieces.com, or their Instagram is suave.timepieces. Guys, listen, yeah. The thing that I love about this watch the most is the Arabic numbers. And it's got the date on it as well. Beautiful, beautiful watch. Thank you so much, Suave Timepieces, for sponsoring this episode with Yusha Evans. This episode, guys, is with Yusha Evans, as mentioned. We spoke at the beginning about Halloween. I really want to talk about Halloween with Yusha Evans. I know that he's spoken about kind of other kind of pagan traditions and stuff in the past, and so I want to talk about Halloween and kind of the origins of it, where it's or the meaning behind it, whether we can whether we can celebrate Halloween or our children. We can take our children out to trick or treating, etc., etc. We also discuss a bit about anger. We discuss slightly, I think, a small bit about social media. And what else did we discuss? Anger, Halloween, and zombies. Mental health, that's it. Yeah, we spoke about anxiety and panic attacks. Yusha talks about the panic attacks that he used to kind of experience just a few short years ago, and about how that's a stigma for kind of middle-aged men or grown men to not discuss mental health and anxiety. So very, very interesting. Sorry? Yeah, horror movies as well. There we go. So guys, listen, welcome to episode 127 of Freshly Grounded with Yusha Evans, brought to you by Suave Timepieces. Check them out, guys, suavetimepieces.com. Use FG10 at checkout to get 10% off. And we will let the episode begin now.
And welcome to Freshly Grounded, the brand new podcast by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Huh?
I said welcome to Freshly Grounded,
After that bit.
the brand new podcast
And after that bit?
by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Really?
Okay, episode 127, I think, or 128 with Yusha Evans. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you this fine morning? We're still morning. 6 minutes left until the
We're
afternoon.
6 minutes till morning,
Yeah.
till afternoon. Alhamdulillah, all is well.
Alhamdulillah. Yep, 127.
Always a pleasure to be back. This is what, my fifth.
You're the most frequent guest on Freshly Grounded, which is a surprise because you live probably the furthest. You actually do live the furthest, I think.
I don't think anybody lives further.
Sorry?
Unless you have any Aussies.
Yeah, no, we don't have any Aussies, so you're right. Actually, no, we've had Sonny Bill Williams, but that was in New Zealand, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, that was in New Zealand.
Yeah. So, you're the furthest, but also the most frequent, and we really do appreciate you coming back. Every time you come, to be honest, whenever you're not here, we're getting people saying when you're going to have Yusha Evans back on the podcast, so appreciate that.
Well, that was my most asked request when I posted that I was coming back.
The question,
London.
really?
Are you going to be on FG?
Yeah, FG. They call it FG. It's our thing. Hey, we're unintentionally matching today.
Yeah, we are unintentionally matching.
Yeah.
It was not a plan.
No, it wasn't. But I'm sure that would look great on camera. Okay, cool. Perfect. Right, I'm going to get straight into
And
the
we're not
discussion.
being sponsored by Adidas,
No, we're not.
unfortunately.
No. That would be good, though. Although, do you know what I do? I don't know what you're like if you've got pet peeve, but I mix and match my brands all the time.
I can't.
Oh, why are you
I told
like
you I had
that?
some minor, I have certain, it's not that I think there's something wrong with that. I see somebody doing that and I'm like, oh man, how could you? It's my own personal, I have certain little OCDs about things, yeah.
See, I'm wearing Adidas t-shirt. Oh no, so Adidas jumper.
I mean, that sounds
my
extremely,
t-shirt is Converse. My socks are Champion, and my shoes are Nike. My trousers are Nike. So I'm
it's
completely
not out of like
unmatched.
brand loyalty, and it sounds extremely materialistic to come off like that. Like, there are a lot of people who, alhamdulillah, for them, any clothes would be
Of course,
sufficient,
of course.
especially our, not cheap clothes. But it's not whereas if that's all I could wear, I'd be like, no, I'm not going to absolutely wear anything like that. It's just something I constantly, like, I don't even, socks and shoes have to be the same.
Really?
I can't wear Nike socks or some Adidas trainers or vice versa.
No. I don't know. I'm just about functionality.
It is a weird OCD. Even
Yeah.
if I can't see it, I know it's there. Like, if I
That is
clean, like
weird.
some people, like sometimes just chuck trash, and like, shove it under the bed or toss it in the back of the closet. I can do that very rarely, but it'll bug me forever because even if you can't see it, I'll know it's there.
Yeah.
In my head, it's still there. Even if I was across the world, I'd be like, oh man, I need to clean my closet.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that one because it's annoying because it's like baggage in your head. It's taking up
It's taking up space.
space in your head rent free.
Mentally, yeah.
Yeah, which is not good.
It's taking up mental space.
Okay, look, as you know, I wanted to really talk about Halloween this episode, and I always go and mention that on Freshly Grounded, like we've done however many episodes and we haven't scripted one of them, and even this one's been completely unscripted as well. However, for this episode I did have a topic in mind, which is more than I did for any other episode. I think Halloween's important because well, to speak about kind of, first of all, it's October, so it's coming up. And, to some people, they might say, it's a given. Like, obviously, we don't celebrate Halloween. Others might say, what's wrong with it? So I wanted to kind of delve into it. So because I knew, alhamdulillah, that you were coming to London around this time of year, I thought it'd be a perfect episode. And you're pretty much the perfect person for us to speak to about it. So I wanted to kind of start with the history of Halloween. Is it actually anything to do with, for example, stuff like shaitan or anything that we should actually be worried about? Or with the history of it, is it all just kind of fun and games and dressing up?
I mean, most of these things, almost every single one of these holidays, I don't know if there's one that traces its roots back to a pagan origin of some kind. Halloween goes back to a Celtic custom and a satanic ritual custom called All Hallows Eve. When they feel like there was because it's preceding the day before the Day of the Dead, which is celebrated in lots of places around the globe, especially like in Central South America, Druid culture, Celtic culture, Day of the Dead. And so the eve before the Day of the Dead is All Hallows Eve, which is like a semblance of like a blend in the gap between this world and the next world, between the living and the dead. That is a time where they think there was like the veil became a little thin, to where they can like be passed through. So they would think that spirits come out on those nights, like evil spirits, good spirits. So they would do things like the trick-or-treating, like the jack-o'-lantern was supposed to scare those things away. The treats were for them to not be harassed and bothered. And this is still to this day the most sacred holiday for satanic cults
So
And
just to slow it down for a second, because you breezed past something that I think is super important, and that's that the trick or treating thing that you just mentioned. So treats were actually put outside the house for spirits,
yeah,
so that the spirits could kind of be distracted by the food and not enter the house, or
no, if they were left something almost like an offering. Because
Okay.
on the Day of the Dead, you do the same thing for the dead of like your family who've passed away. They go to graveyards and have festivals on the Day of the Dead.
so they believe the dead are
Are with us.
okay.
Like they have that day from, and of course days always start at sunset the day prior.
I see. Yes.
It's become modern society who's flipped that around because of the way that we work now in consumerism. But so the night before the actual Day of the Dead was, All Hallows Eve, when like the bad spirits came out. Because at night, like that's when evil spirits lurk. So if you leave them candy and an offering, like they do at the graves on the Day of the Dead for their family members, they bring them food and stuff like that, then they wouldn't bother you.
Okay, I didn't know they did that on the Day of the Dead.
Yep.
Okay, so right, so this is the kind of what we can trace back to kind of where it started, and please continue. So they give these offerings. I kind of cut you in at that point. So they give these offerings to the spirits and what else was happening?
And it's still practiced today by satanic cults, and there is a minority religion which has a decent following called Wiccan, which is like people who Wiccans are like, and they become more popular with movies like Harry Potter and stuff like that. Like that's a lot of because they believe in magic and witchcraft and black magic, which we know is real. Sihr is a real thing, but they believe that this power is a dark power. So in order to be proficient in that, there are parts of which I'll probably have some Wiccans watch this and be like, no, he's over something. No, there are parts of Wiccanism to where it gets into satanic worship, because in order to be very good at dark arts, you would have to be closer to the Dark Lord, who is Shaitan. You know what I mean? And the closer you get to that evil, the more power you get, which we see even in the Quran. That like the strongest magicians, you mentioned a lot of them were like the magicians at the time of Musa. They were close to Shaitan with their paganism and stuff like that. So we were given this power, but Musa defeated the truth always defeats batil. But without the truth being present, the batil looks really amazing. You know what I mean? Like it looks like you have some power. So knowing that all of this still functionally actively happens, that on the night where you think there's no big deal, we're just taking our kids to get some candy and dress up. At that same time, all around the globe, there are people who are intensifying their worship to Shaitan on that night, and you're out celebrating it simultaneously.
Okay, so what if a person says, fine, we don't disagree with how it started, or even we don't even disagree that it still happens for those reasons, but what if our intention is not that, we just want to celebrate take our kids trick-or-treating, have some fun for them, they're able to decorate the house, and it's like a fun thing for them to do, they do it in school and stuff anyway, it's harmless to us because that's our intention isn't to quote-unquote worship Shaitan. What would your response be to that?
That's all and well, and maybe it releases you from some of the gravity of the sin, or maybe not, because you know better and you've justified it now. You know what I mean? Like, I know that there's some wrong with it, because if not, you wouldn't feel a need to justify it. You know what I mean? You just be like, I have no problem with it and move on. But to do that is like the same. You might as well say that you can take your child and your children to church on Sunday, and go through the whole Sunday ritual of worshiping Jesus, but be like, oh, our intention is not for that. We come here for, I don't know, maybe they have food afterward, they have a buffet afterward, so we come here for the buffet. Any parent would probably be like, well, this is two different things. No, it's not. That's apples and apples. You can't try to justify those things in that way, because there's no excusable reason to participate in worshiping Shaitan directly. Like, if you break it down to that most simplistic level, that this is what it is. This is a day where people worship the devil. And now you want to join in that festivities of worshiping the devil, but you want to say that's not my intention.
Yeah, sounds like a very dangerous path.
It's a very dangerous path. So you mean to tell me you're willing to take that chance for one day, one little festivity, the day after nobody even cares about it anymore?
Have your children ever asked you about it? Kind of going to school and stuff like
Every
Dad, can we-
single one of them.
Okay.
And just explained it the same way I've explained it to you, that, you know, yes, getting treats and dressing up, all this is in and of itself harmless. If you did that on like March the 1st, you know, I'd put my kids in a costume and walk them through the neighborhood. You know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a whole nother story. But now, singling out a day that is singled out to worship the devil, that's problematic. I don't think that there's any way you can break it down to that level. And as a parent, especially as a parent who is responsible for your children, say there's a way I feel like justifying allowing them to do that. No, you're the parent. You know what I mean? You are the parent. If you know what that is, I don't care how bad they want it, kicking and screaming, crying, they'll live. I've never witnessed to this day a child dying of disappointment or crying or pouting, you know, or throwing a strap or whatever, a temper. I've never seen a child die from that. So they'll be all right. Tomorrow they'll forget about it. But, you know, I have a responsibility as a parent.
How much of that leads into just the general the general kind of business of fear and like horror movies and all that kind of stuff? I got a question recently from a brother. We were just having a conversation and he was saying, what do you think about stuff like Fright Night? So I don't know, you wouldn't know about Fright Night, I'm assuming, from being from the States. So Fright Night is, you know, there's these big theme parks. There's a big
Are you talking about like the haunted house thing?
I believe I might be doing really bad justice, but I believe Fright Night is like Thorpe Park is one of the big theme parks here, and around Halloween time, so I'm assuming it's because of the Halloween kind of period, they turn their theme park into like everything scary and there's like zombies walking around.
They do that all over the States.
Right, so going to a theme park that is hosting Fright Night, that, and you're not going on October 31st. Someone basically started this conversation with me, and my initial reaction was like, well, that doesn't sound, because you have to understand that my thing was, well, even the idea of like people trying to fake scare you, people trying to scare you, or you enjoying going, the idea of being scared. Like I remember, I don't want to put this on Ustad Tim, but I do remember watching a Q&A about children. It was like a teenager Q&A, and it was about like watching movies and horror movies, and about how the idea of it is for it was from that actually. The idea of it is for them to create this fear of the shaitan within you. Eventually, even if you say, look, I watch horror movies, but I don't get scared. Yes, maybe you don't get scared, but slowly, you know, you hear a sound, you turn on, and this is scaring you of the shaitan or of the jinn. So,
you know, one thing that when it comes to these like horror things, and I know this because all my kids have gone down that road, and I myself, you know, as a kid grew up. Fright Night is like a commercialized version of what I grew up around, because I grew up in the South and it's a very rural area outside of my town, and they used to have Halloween things where you would go out into a cornfield and there's like a almost abandoned, like an abandoned house out in a cornfield, like real, like you think you're in those movies. I'm talking about memories that I remember from my childhood to this day, probably when I was like 5 or 6, of being scared out of my life because they have like haunted houses and you do a whole walkthrough, and it was as close as you can get. I don't necessarily think exposing our children to that on a high level at a young age is a good thing. I've seen it from my own children, you know what I mean? Like they've ended up playing a game on a computer like Five Nights at Freddy's.
okay, I don't know what that is.
You don't know about Five Nights. It's an online video game where like you're trapped in a kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese in America.
Okay.
But the animatronics have become like evil and like zombified.
Okay.
And so you try to stay alive by turning on lights and closing doors. And if not, there's a jump scare. And it scares me. When I first saw it, I nearly jumped out of my own skin. And all of my kids ended up playing that. At one point, I had to cut it off because after that, they couldn't sleep. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't leave the room by themselves. They couldn't be in a room where there's too much. That level of fear creates anxiety.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It creates children to have an anxious backdrop to the way they view the world. Everything is scary. Now, we need to teach our children that there are certain scary things, but not everything. But for older adults, the only thing I can see that, because there's people who watch horror movies. I mean, we're not going to, we're not passing any fatwa on Freshly Grounded that will go and affect
course,
every
fine.
Muslim is going to stop watching horror movies tomorrow.
Fine.
Nobody's going to do that.
Sure.
I think it has led some people to have more, even if it's a weird fantasy type of reality, that there is something beyond the natural world, especially with like these supernatural, these,
Okay.
ghost type shows with spirits and demons. Like people are like, after watching a movie like that, if you hear something in a dark room behind you, you're gonna be like, oh, it's just the way our mind works. So having that understanding that there might be things, like my wife, she's like, she would not watch any of like that supernatural stuff, because and to me it started affecting me the same way more I learned about Islam, is realizing that these things are real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I watch sometimes on Discovery these where they go do these haunted tours, like they'll go do investigations.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And there's some stuff that they catch that's just like can't be explained. And I'm over here, everybody's thinking this is spirits or demons, and I'm like, I know exactly what this is.
Yeah.
Like these people are getting some as close as we get to evidence of the fact that they're jinn. You know what I mean? That there's another level of existence. There's another, creatures that exist in our physical plane that we can't see, touch, or feel. Islam already has taught us this. So, if people have a little bit more belief in the unseen, that's what we'll get out of it. But other than that, I don't, people are not going to stop watching horror films. But I think we also start blurring the line between reality and fiction at that point, because you start believing things that are a bit outlandish, like zombies. You know what I mean? Like real life. And I'm not talking about zombies that, the human, like, most of us are zombies these days anyway. You look at the majority of the world, people come back and forth. I mean, they are zombies, but in the whole comic book sense of like,
or looking down at everything. Yeah.
Like running through it can only be killed by a bullet to the head or something like that. The fact that people think that that's a reality, I think we start blurring that line of what's possible and what's not possible.
Fine. We're back from a break. We had to take a small little break, but we will carry on the discussion. There was so much that we were talking about even during the break, wasn't there?
Yeah.
We were talking about the kind of the idea of like social media and stuff, although I think it's discussed quite often, so we'll skip the discussion for now.
Almost. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
almost saturated.
Yeah, everyone talks about I think everyone knows the negatives and positives of social media. But we were also talking a bit about anger and how I think a lot of us, especially us men, maybe we can get. I suppose different people have different levels of controlling their anger. I know some people who are really great at being patient and controlling their anger, and others are not the best with it. Have you had experiences with people or yourself where you can see the dangers of anger, basically?
Yeah, for 100%. I mean, I'm someone who, and I've said this before. As a young man, like a teenager, I had really bad anger issues before coming to Islam. Like I talk about it in my story. One of the last points before coming to Islam, I was beating up a guy at a payphone for absolutely no reason. Just that anger had finally boiled over, and at 17, you don't really know how to deal with it. I've talked about in my own podcast some of the reasons that there was probably some of that built up tension and anger there. Anyone who's seen that will know it's not want to go down that road, but learning how destructive that is now that I've learned to control my anger, and I haven't been in a fight since I became a Muslim. It's you learn once you've come out of that. For anyone who's had anger issues and you learn to deal with them, when you look back at yourself, you're like, man, I was nuts. Something was wrong with me. So you automatically see that it's a very destructive. This is the reason why when a man came to the Prophet ﷺ, the man said, give me some advice. He said, don't get angry. He's like, wait, no, give me another advice. He said, don't get angry. He said that 3 times because anger is such a destructive emotion. There is no good that comes from it. The only good is the very little good is that when one becomes angry for the sake of Allah. And this is what is known as al-bara. You know what I mean? That you have anger, hatred, enmity towards that which Allah has anger, hatred, and enmity towards. And that was the only time you would see the messenger, like the Prophet ﷺ, anytime he's known to have gotten angry, it was for the sake of Allah. Or he'd be on the minbar or things of this nature. But when his wives did things, you remember when they basically played the trick on him, and he almost divorced them, you don't see him being described as angry. Even though if there were any time in a man's personal life where he has a right to be a little bit angry, would be something like that, especially who he was.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything. He silently went and, separated himself and went into. He was very logical about the way he did with it. He doesn't show anger.
How did you go from being maybe like an angry person to now the calm Yusha that we see?
Calm.
Well, you come across as calm.
I am calm most of the time. I said I can't really say that there was a step-by-step, okay, you do this calms you down. It was more of the realization after coming to Islam, leaving a life that I really didn't feel like had any purpose. So losing my temper, losing my control of my anger, I didn't really think had any negative consequences other than maybe the here and now, But coming a Muslim and realizing a real purpose in life, you start to see that anger is destructive of almost everything. Goals you have in life, relationships you have in life, your own peace of mind, your own health. Anger affects all of that in such a negative way that you have to start learning a coping mechanism or a way to deal with it rather than just letting it be unbridled. Like the Prophet ﷺ didn't tell the man, it wasn't saying you can't not be angry. He was saying control.
Don't get angry.
Don't allow yourself to become angry, or overwhelmed. This is why the Prophet ﷺ also gave the recommendation, when you're angry, if you're standing up, sit down.
Yeah.
If you're sitting down, lay down. And if that's not working, go and make wudu. If that's not working, like pray 2 rak'ah. Like there's a systematic way to not deal with being angry, and all of it is about de-escalation. Standing up, sit down. Sitting, lie down.
It's amazing how anger...
De-escalation.
It's just amazing how anger can cause so many issues.
The Prophet ﷺ said that it's like fire for your good deeds. It's like fire. What fire does with wood, just burns right through it. It is a destructive. It's a destructive emotion.
And you can even catch yourself doing things out of anger that you don't necessarily, you might not see as like a destructive thing. Example is that you might get upset by something, and though you're not showing anger, you're showing frustration, and in your frustration you might start backbiting, which is very common because you go, oh man, if only he didn't, and then why does he have to do that anyway? And you realize, I'm backbiting, whereas normally I wouldn't backbite because my frustrations now come through. If only I was able to control that. Now I've backbitten and I have to make tawbah for that. I could have lost reward if I was patient through it. So it's not even just anger, because someone might be listening to this saying, look, I don't get angry, but maybe you get frustrated. Maybe you don't get angry as in violent angry and scarily angry, but maybe you get frustrated, and through your frustration you say things or you do things, or you make rash decisions, erratic decisions that then have like a long-lasting effect. And even if they don't have a long-lasting effect, perhaps they just have a long-lasting effect in your iman, right?
Yeah, everybody gets angry. For someone who says that I don't get angry, then you don't understand what anger is.
Right.
It's a natural human emotion. That's what I'm saying. The Prophet didn't negate it and say you can't be angry. He was saying to the man, don't let it consume you. Control your anger. Become the master of the anger, because the anger will become the master of you. Like you said, you would do things angrily you would never do rationally, and you would never normally do. It's also a part of it can become what is the word I'm looking for? A mental disorder, in the sense that you lose culpability for your actions. Like an illegal court state system. Like if I killed someone, but I wanted to prove that I did it without thinking, like insanely, one of the things that you can use in justifying that defense is extreme anger. That I became so angry, I blacked out. You know what I mean? Like I could not distinguish right or wrong because of the anger. Like for instance, a man who came in, saw his wife cheating with another man, he killed both of them. He can say that anger caused him to do it, and he can actually get away with that with a good enough lawyer who can argue that stipulation. There are mental health professionals who have deemed that as being clinically insane. That moment, that person was not in control of their actions. The anger. That's why I say it's destructive. It can become such an evil emotion, is that it can overtake you and cause you to act without thought.
Wow.
I don't know if that's a legal defense in any Sharia perspective. That was maybe something you'd have to ask, like, Ustad Tim when next time he comes back. But in a legal system, yeah, there are some psychological findings that extreme anger is just like insanity.
Speaking of mental health, there is like a lot more of understanding or like acceptance of the fact that I'm not talking about anger now. I'm just talking about mental health in terms of maybe like anxiety, depression. There is a lot more talk about mental health generally now in the world, which can be seen, very positive. Do you think that the discussion of mental health that's arising is a good thing? Do you think that it's important that people should be discussing it in regards to like the stigma of men? I ask because I mentioned to you off camera as well that I think the statistics a few years ago anyway were that the biggest killer in men, middle-aged men, so around the age of 40, was suicide, which means that there's some sort of perhaps like depression or anxiety that these people are going through that they're not discussing, and there's no one talking about it.
Well, for most societies have become like societies of repression when it comes to mental health. That's why it needs to be talked about and discussed so much, because it's a naturally repressed thing within society. Nobody is wanting to admit that it's changing now to where people are starting to realize that it is not always a weakness. Sometimes it is an illness, and blaming someone for being sick is kind of twisted. So the West is coming around to that better. The East is coming around to that. But the Muslim community is probably the most repressed community, one of the most repressed communities on planet Earth when it comes to mental health. It's still highly taboo for a Muslim to have a mental health issue, because it's normally associated with there has to be some weakness within you. You get the blame. It's victim blaming almost, or victim shaming, whereas there must be some weakness in you, because even if it is shaitan or jinn or sihr, you must have been in a weak enough state within your iman for those things to be affecting to you. So nobody speaks about it because they automatically think I'm going to be negatively stigmatized, is that there must be something wrong with my iman, there must be something wrong with my faith, rather than admitting and getting help for it. And even more so in men. Men are the maintainers and protectors of the family. We're supposed to be like built of stone. We're not supposed to be fadeable. We don't get to take days off. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't give you a vacation from being a man and a father, and just like a woman doesn't get a vacation off from being a mother and her responsibilities, and that we don't get days off in that either. So we have to keep on the brave face. And I know this because I dealt with anxiety myself. I went through a couple of years that were very frightening.
As a grown man?
As a grown man, like a few years back.
Okay.
That had stemmed, and this is part of reflections, is part of my therapy, not self-therapy, to where I can actually like speak some life to these things and acknowledge the fact that these things happened to me and have probably affected me. I need to learn to process that and deal with it. Yeah,
well, anybody who hasn't watched, I think it was episode 2 of Reflections, right?
I think it was 2.
Yeah, it should definitely go back and watch that, because I think it's an episode that took me by surprise, because you opened up about things that I would never have known about you, and because you hide these things so well. You come across like a very cool, calm, collected person. So to know that you had such a difficult childhood, where you witnessed some horrific stuff, was very surprising. So anybody who hasn't watched that, I would definitely say go ahead and watch episode 2 of Reflections, the Reflections podcast by Yusha Evans, where you do kind of discuss those things.
Yeah,
so do you think that the experience that you had then kind of came to the surface as an adult a few years ago?
Yeah, as an adult, and I also realized that a lot of this started triggering when I started having children around the same age as I was going through that. And so I started to realize that there would be certain things and I couldn't explain why. There was just certain ways that I would do things on my children, or give them things, or let them slide with certain things that were just like a no. There was no, that's just the way I'm going to handle this. I started to realize after some discussions with my wife that I was maybe deflecting, rather than I'm dealing with my own childhood, I'm just so worried about my children never experiencing anything like that. I started realizing that this is something I have to deal with, because now it's manifesting itself so much later. I started having anxiety without realizing why. Why am I really? Because I'm a person, yes, I know to trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I teach other people about it, but here I am having anxiety and panic attacks that I don't feel like I'm in control of. It's not like I'm mentally stressing, so I'm triggering a panic attack, or anxiety attack, which is triggering a panic attack. It's like I wasn't in control of those situations.
What did the panic attacks feel like?
They feel like you're dying. Anyone who's had a panic attack, and I discussed this in one of my episodes, and there were so many comments were like, exactly like, Brother Yusha's had panic attacks for real, because he knows exactly what they're like. It's like death is coming. You have this intense feeling of fear. It's what it is, part of our physiology is that we have a innate fight or flight, reflex. That's been proven, that when we're put in stressful situations, our body releases endorphins that gives us the ability to either fight back the threat or to flee like really fast. This is why mothers have picked up cars, when their children, like you get like a super boost of adrenaline. And I had not learned how to really process trauma, grief as an early child and as a young adult. With the whole thing I talked about, my mother dying, my grandmother dying, I never really learned how to process that. I was a person who was just taught as a Southern man, we don't have emotions like that, like sadness and grief, and you stick that way down inside and just shut that file and just walk away. But living in the world we live in now and having children and trying to help other people and them bringing me their emotional problems kind of opened up that vault where those files are. So stuff started spilling out, and I didn't start dealing with it. I didn't learn to deal with it. I just kind of buried myself in my work. So those things started up coming out as anxiety, as, me having dealt with undealt trauma in the past and stuff like that. So I really wasn't in control of it until I learned to process it and start talking about it and do the reflections that allowed me to have the space to process it. So we don't discuss these things enough in the Muslim community. If you have anxiety, you must not trust Allah. If you're depressed, you must not believe properly.
What do you say to let's say a middle-aged man is listening now who feels like their iman is strong right now, but they're going through anxiety? What do?
Get help.
How?
Seek somebody professional in that field. The imams are good about helping us get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, you can say that a byproduct of getting closer to Allah is, a higher iman, which helps you deal with types of things like this. But our imams are not always trained to recognize the difference between iman issues, low iman and things of that nature, and real mental health issues. Like there could be someone who is suffering from bipolarism, schizophrenia, clinical depression. I'm not talking about where you're just sad. There's a huge difference. Without not being able to say that these things are all spiritual. No, there might be some physical things that need. It might even be just like in my case. This person needs to talk out some trauma, because that's another thing that Muslims are. We are not capable or able to be the victim. Like if a woman who's been a victim of like sexual assault as a child or something like that, or a young man that's done the same, that's so taboo that we just carry on with life after that. So there might be things that this person needs to deal with that until they do that, this isn't going to get better. Bringing them closer to Allah is going to be like putting a band-aid on a gunshot wound. It will help a little bit, but the blood's still going to spill out. The emotions and stuff, the unprocessed traumas, is still going to find a way to rear its head at some point. But the problem is a lot of people don't recognize it. A lot of people don't realize that things are happening to them in their life are a byproduct of those things. And the imam's not trained to target in on that. That takes like some actual training, actual study, actual experience of knowing how those things function. Like I've gone through anxiety and panic attacks now. So if someone were to describe, this is what's happening to me, I would know exactly what it is. You are having anxiety attacks, panic attacks. No, you're not going to die. Anybody who's had one will tell you it feels like not only do you feel like you're having a heart attack, It starts off, your heart starts racing, gets really fast, or it starts skipping beats and palpitates. And then that starts the adrenaline dump, which makes you start feeling lightheaded, rushing. Feels like the walls are closing in. And as a Muslim, you feel like that's it. La ilaha illallah. You know, you're reciting kalima over and over and over again because you're like, angel of death is going to show up any second now. And you either that gets out of control, where a lot of people show up to the hospital, which I did 3 times. I went to the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack. It was nothing. All my vitals were absolutely okay. Heart, EKG, nothing. It all came back fine. But by then, I had already gotten over the panic attack, because sometimes it comes for 5-10 minutes, goes in waves. But I would have to say, alhamdulillah, now, I have had a full-blown anxiety attack, panic attack, some years now. A few years now. I've had episodes where I think it's going to happen, but I've learned to process and deal with it.
Anxiety is horrible because the only way to almost explain it is that you feel so scared and like you can't eat and everything. You get this horrible feeling inside you, and then but you can't put your finger on why.
Can't put your finger on why, and it's not just being scared. It's like doom and gloom.
Yeah.
You know, like the world is coming to an absolute end right now. You're gonna die. You start telling yourself, that's it. Your heart's about to give out. You're gonna die. You're going straight to hell. You know what I mean? It's a very terrifying feeling.
It's also odd because you almost kind of just want to be alone and you want to get in your bed and just like shut off, which obviously is not great because being alone in times like that,
your head just starts spinning again.
Yeah, it's rumination, isn't it? And also talking about the shaitan loves when you're alone. You know what I mean? Shaitan loves when you're alone, especially in times like that, because he's got time to make it worse mentally.
Well, when it comes to anxiety, if you're alone as well, when it comes to panic attacks, overthinking is like the number one no. It's like pouring gas on a fire, and that's exactly what you start doing. You start overthinking, overinflating the situation.
Yeah.
I've learned to deal with panic attacks in that I force myself to a normal activity.
Do you communicate with your wife?
Yes.
Oh, at that point, do you say
100%.
this is how I'm feeling?
I tell her what I'm tell her like I'm having a panic attack. If you see me acting a bit odd, I'm just processing, dealing with it. Because I've learned that if you force yourself to do something menial, it's like some menial task. Like I'll even start doing division, long division.
Really?
Yes, because
Okay.
you start focusing on something that your brain is recognizing that there's not a danger. There's no way I'm in danger if I'm doing division. So it automatically stops the endorphin dump. It stops the
Right.
adrenaline dump, and it starts chilling out. You know,
How
because like if you
powerful is
pour
the
water
brain?
on a fire, if you pour gas on a fire, it's gonna flame up for a second.
Right.
But if you don't add any more gas, it's gonna come back down to
Of
normal.
course.
But what happens in an anxiety attack is that you keep perpetuating that there's something to be afraid of. You start fearing death. You start fearing a heart attack.
Yeah.
So it's like you're pouring gas on the fire, and you just keep doing it. It's just gonna keep exponentially bigger.
How crazy is it? How crazy is it? How powerful the mind is.
It is. Or I'll start washing dishes, which is something I despise doing.
I hate it as well.
I'm not a dishes guy.
I hate it.
love cleaning my house. Dishes are my number one thing that
I'm
I
just
do not
like
like.
you.
They're going in the dishwasher if I'm doing them. But if I start forcing myself to wash the dishes when I feel like I'm about to die and have a panic attack, that's how I can distinguish, am I really having a heart attack or not? Because within 5 minutes, it'll calm down. Because you take away the fight or flight response. You flip the switch off.
Yeah. I suppose it can't be. I suppose everybody needs to find that thing for them though, because for some people it might not be that easy either.
No, and it wasn't that easy for me in the
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah,
Like when I learned that, because I did go to some therapy. When I learned that trick, and I'm not ashamed to say that I've spoken to a therapist. Everybody needs to talk to someone. When you have problems like that, and that's what I suggest to people who come to me and ask me this, as a suggestion for them. I say one of the things is you need to be able to talk to someone about this who has an unbiased approach to it, who doesn't know much about you. So they can give you, because people who have a biased approach to you or have some attachment relationship to you, their opinions are always going to have some skew. Always. It's good and a bad thing, but it's just going to be like that. But sitting with someone who doesn't know you in the slightest and explaining these problems, and who've heard 10,000 other people who have similar problems, they might know a thing or two about some coping mechanisms and way to deal with it.
The other good thing is that
Just don't go to a pill farm.
Right. The other good thing is that they ask questions, so it makes you talk. Because I remember when my mum got diagnosed with cancer, and I was in university, and so my university somehow found out, and so they made me go to these counselling sessions just for a bit. I only went to a couple of them, but the therapist would ask questions, and that's what the therapist would do. It mainly ask questions. And
That's all they do.
Yeah,
they're professional question
yeah,
askers.
but the most amazing thing about that is that they ask questions that do actually make you think, and you talk your own. You actually are talking. Self therapy. They just ask the right questions, which is good. I mean, obviously, they must be legally obliged to do so because they don't want to like make you think something that. So I suppose like they're like forcing their opinion on you, but they don't. Yeah, they ask questions and you start working things out yourself. And how did this make you feel? And what was your reaction like with this? Do you feel like you could have reacted better? And you start thinking about it a lot more, but you face the challenge head on.
Self-realization is the strongest realization. When you've come to a conclusion of your own, rather than somebody saying, this is what I think is wrong with you, you work it out in your mind yourself, and then you're like, aha. So that's why I've been doing this.
Why is that so strong? Because even with teaching, that's really...
It's just part of our own... We believe what we've taught ourselves more than we believe anything anybody else taught us.
Ajib.
You know what I'm saying? We have... That is part of the kibr of every human being. Like, if I've come to that knowledge myself, that is the most authentic source for me. You know, somebody with 12 PhDs could give me the same answer, but I wouldn't feel it as strong as if I came to that conclusion myself. And that's another reason why I decided to study psychology as a secular. And part of the reason why I started the podcast, and I discussed this with you before, and like... but I didn't go in and deep it, is that I know if I can work out my own resolutions and all I need to do is be asked the right questions, I just ask myself the questions and talk to a global audience. You know what I mean? If I want to talk to someone who doesn't have any personal knowledge of me, deep down, the best place to do that today is just rant to a bunch of strangers on the internet. And it's helped. It has been extremely therapeutic. Episode 2 was... I needed to take a day off after that, to be honest with you.
Really,
it was really therapeutic.
That was a heavy episode to listen to.
I mean, there were things there that I said that maybe like 1 or 2 human beings on the planet know. You know, so that was...
What was the response?
That was also hurting me because it was such a guarded, kept secret that it started to become like a weakness, like a mold, you know, that I just needed to... And there was no reason to be ashamed of it.
What was the response, the public response from that episode?
There was a lot of outpouring of people who, number one, didn't... They were like, from the outside, you would never guess.
You would never guess.
You would never guess.
Never.
But then so many people came to me and told me they have had similar issues, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages and emails of people who said they were going through the same thing, you know, and that after like 11 episodes, they were like, this is some therapy. I've taken a break, though, but we filmed the newest episode.
Okay.
It'll be coming out this week, inshallah.
How are you finding trying to maintain, like, was it weekly that you're doing? That you
Weekly.
planned to do? How do you find trying to maintain weekly podcasts with all the other stuff you've got going on in your life?
Frustrating.
It's tough.
Because
right?
I never want to sit down, and this is also why I took a break, because I had some things that went on in my life. I, relocated for a little bit, long story, but I don't want to sit down and film an episode just because I feel like I have to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the platform that I had was I wanted it to be authentic. You know, I wanted it to be reflections of my life that I authentically wanted to share. You know, like episode 2, I was at a point to where I wanted to share this. It wasn't like I said, okay, I'm going to talk about this, and this is regardless of whether I want to or not. No, I really wanted to at that point. So I never want to sit down and do an episode forced.
Yeah, and those things don't come weekly. You don't necessarily, your mind doesn't think every week, oh, now I've got this great thing. Yeah, you're right.
It might, but then it's not going to be perpetual. Like for 11 weeks, you know, I enjoyed doing every one of those episodes, and then I felt like, okay, to do another episode right now, I kind of have to force myself to figure out what am I going to talk about. I didn't want to be like that. I wanted to be authentic, and I know that consistency is key, but it's not like I was running a business. Part of this was my own help and my own for my own benefit. So I was like, I needed to take a little break.
Well, that's something that's the most that will engage the audience the most will be things that are authentic. Nobody wants to see content that's content for the sake of it, and I think you know that. So
nobody wants dry,
yeah, exactly,
regurgitated content. Like that's one thing. It's not even a pride thing, but I know I'm a person who will stick to certain principles, even if I have to walk away from amazing opportunities to do so. You know what I mean? Like I'm a person who wants to be a person of some kind of principle. Even if I might be wrong, I'd rather be a person who's kind of sticks to a principle. Like if there's certain red lines I won't violate or I won't break, I'm just gonna keep it that way. Like if I want to do an authentic show, it's gonna be authentic even if I have to stop doing it. if at some point the authentic and maybe get somebody else on to do it or something like we talked about before.
Yeah.
Even if in order to be authentic, I say, look, I'm done.
I think that's the solution.
I'm authentically done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I need to have the freedom to be able to do that. I don't want to think like, okay, I need to get to 100 episodes.
Nah.
And I'm going to force it. Even if I have to force it out, I'm going to get me to 100 episodes. No. That's not authentic. You know, I want to be able to say that if I get to 1,000 episodes and I still feel like I'm giving out of the genuine desire to do so, alhamdulillah. If not, let's find somebody else to do it and I'll take a back seat.
Yeah, I think that's the solution, because I think trying to mix the two, authenticity but consistency, you know, they are the two formulas for success, really. But how do you
getting both all the time is like,
yeah, it's impossible. But to find someone else who can kind of take care of that. That was always the plan with Freshly Grounded as well. Like the idea of having Sam and I, meaning that we can always bounce off of each other, and meaning that we don't have to like try and find a guest for the sake of finding a guest. If we don't have a guest, alhamdulillah, it's fine. We can have a discussion within ourselves, and they're always genuine conversations and authentic.
And we miss Sam.
We miss Sam a lot.
Anybody who knows will realize it's been like 4 episodes since me, you, and him.
I've done something together.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's a very long time ago. Yeah. If anybody knows his whereabouts, let us know. No, joking.
Sam was missing in action.
Yeah, and today would have been a great episode to have him because we have the 2 cameras, the setups, and the wall's not in yet, so we could have got that angle in. Alhamdulillah. Sounds very, very busy.
One of these times.
Yeah. He did really.
We need to schedule it like 6 months out before.
Yeah.
Put it on his schedule. So
That's what I do with our
no matter
events.
how busy you are, even a president
Yeah.
can make a
6 months.
6 months
Yeah.
ahead meeting.
It's true.
So we have to do that next time.
He did
inshallah.
express his apologies because he was looking forward to it, and Sam has a lot of love for you as well. And but it doesn't. But I know that for you, it's not coming across like that now. Are you planning to?
So
see?
Sam has that personality. He's not, and I've told him this as well. He's not the most expressive in
Right.
certain. You know, Sam is very.
Yeah.
He's kind of like monochrome a lot of times.
Yeah.
You know
He's
what
a
I mean?
man's man.
Yeah, man's man. Like if you go through his Instagram, it's like, dude, your facial expressions are like 99% the same.
Yeah.
It's rarely a smile.
Yeah.
You know, it's always just like businessman. You know what I mean? So he comes off across that in person. Unless you know him a little bit more closely, then
Are you planning to see him this trip?
I don't know.
Because you normally go when you're here. You normally go there for a trim, don't you?
Yeah, normally I don't know if I'm able to make my way all the way up this time.
Yeah.
Have quite a few things
It's a busy schedule.
going on this week. Yeah.
You're planning to talk this evening. That didn't end up going through.
No,
Okay.
that didn't happen. It happens a lot of times where sometimes somebody starts an event thing and then they just disappear.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I told them I didn't think they had enough time anyway because it's King's College.
Okay.
And I'm like, to do things on the collegiate level, I know there's a whole system of checks and balances now.
Yeah. There is.
And that takes time. Especially someone for like me, who I already know that I'm probably banned from quite a few universities. Not that I've been told that I've been banned, but seeing the way that they've banned people. Because used to be all the speakers, we used to like be very, when I'd come to London, I'd be overfilled with the requests from universities. It's not like that anymore. You don't see big speakers doing universities in the UK anymore.
No, not
Anyway,
sure.
not many. They've just kind of just erased that whole avenue,
Yeah.
which nobody speaks about too much, but I find also to be very worrying and troubling, because it means you're going to have a whole generation of people coming now in the next few years that'll be going through college that have never had exposure if they didn't go out. Like, that used to be a place where we could go in and affect minds as they were learning, you know, they're in the environment of learning.
The good thing is also though that nowadays in the day and age of social media that you can access, you know, classes and all sorts online.
Of course, it's not as necessary as it was back in
yeah.
like the early 2000s when I used to travel to a lot of universities when there was no social media, so then there was no YouTube or anything.
I remember you were one of the first on YouTube. I remember you said last time as well.
No,
You-
one of the first Muslims
Yeah, on
to put
YouTube.
dawah videos. Myself, Yusha Evans, a couple other brothers. We were some of the very first people to actually put videos for dawah on YouTube back
What
in the
year is that?
06, 07,
Okay.
where you had only the 10-minute clips.
Yeah, you couldn't upload more than 10 minutes, and
Unless you got, and I eventually got it as well. You had to get some account that was, you had to have a certain number of subscribers
yeah.
and certain, you had to have meet some parameters to be able to, because when we first got that freedom to do more than 10-minute clips, it was like the world had changed. You know, I can put an hour recording up now, and it doesn't have to be in 6
yeah, part
parts.
1, part 2. Yeah,
part
I
2.
remember that.
Because my very first story about how I came to Islam was in 6 parts. It was an hour long.
Oh, really?
And it was in 6 parts because even the university
Didn't
that
know
uploaded it didn't have. That's how early on it was. Even the university didn't have ability to upload more than 10-minute clips.
I think that's the first video of yours I saw because it was recommended to me. And
Back at George Mason University.
is that what it was in the US?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one that everybody knows, the Orange County one, was in 2009.
I'm talking about the one where you talk about how you came to Islam and how you looked at all different religions. What one was that?
It depends on. There's so many versions of that story.
There's this one that's like really, really like popular, and it's like probably your most viewed YouTube video. And you're talking
Yeah,
about
that's in Orange County.
Oh, fine.
That
Yeah,
was
that's
done
the
in
one.
2009.
Yeah.
So
that's
I'd
the
been
one I
Muslim
watched.
already then for a decade, you know what I mean? So a lot of people think like, oh, that's when I came to Islam. I get a lot of, emails saying, congratulations, we want to welcome you to Islam. Like, dude, I've been in a Muslim maybe longer than you've been alive. But regardless, that's the one. But there's an older one, which I don't even think is up anymore, from George Mason University that was in six parts. But the other one became popular because Digital Minbar took it and reposted it as well. It was like one of their first
I see.
like big time videos to go out there.
And now I understand it.
I was young then, man.
Yeah, man. Do you find it amazing how social media and YouTube and stuff allows you to see your growth, not in terms of personality, but in terms of your looks? You look so different then and now, don't you?
Yeah, I'm sure I
I'm
do.
scrolling through your videos. When did you stop with the short hair? When did you decide to grow it long?
A couple years ago, like 4 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, your hair looks a lot better long, man.
I've had a lot of people tell me I aged backwards.
Yeah.
that when I did that and the beard grew out a little bit long and the hair grew out a little bit longer, I aged the opposite way.
The long hair looks really good on you, man. It looks like mature. Allahumma barik. Yeah, man.
Alhamdulillah, only if I can continue to age like that.
Yeah, well, I'm
The
losing.
wrong direction.
Yeah, I'm losing my. I started losing my hair about 22, 23. When I pull it back, my hair's going like into like a M shape. But, alhamdulillah.
A lot of that's hereditary. That's one thing I could become bald, and who knows?
I
But
think it's stressful.
there's nobody in my family, like there's no male that I know of in my family in any direction extended that doesn't have hair.
that doesn't have hair.
Or that
Nobody's
is bald.
bald. Oh,
nobody,
really?
nobody.
See,
My grandfather was in his late 80s and still like a huge head of hair.
Yeah, my mum's side, they have a lot of hair, but my dad doesn't. But I think it could be stress related, but I don't know if that's a myth.
And I think this is not being targeted, but Asians have more.
Wow. No, joking. Joking.
It is known that
Yeah.
that this, especially Indians, Pakistanis, South Asians, have male pattern baldness is a little bit more prevalent. It
Yeah,
seems like,
that and lactose intolerant.
and lactose
yeah.
intolerance.
And
And then you add
90
stress to that. That's one of the things that even if you have, let's say, you have a hereditary leaning towards male pattern baldness.
Yeah,
If you have that along with stress,
you're gone.
you'll be bald a lot sooner than maybe
That's
your
me.
grandfather was. It perpetuates it.
I keep telling my wife to just like.
Mine is just going madly gray. I'm not losing it. It's just the
No.
gray is popping out everywhere. But don't let these lights fool you.
Yeah.
It's coming
No, I can't
all
see
down the sides.
No, I
Lot-
can't see
lots
any,
of grey
I
is
can't see
popping
any grey
in.
there, man. I told my wife, look, enjoy it while you can because by 30 I'm gonna be bored. She's like, stop saying that. Usually it's always amazing having
You
your
either
freshly
are or
grounded.
you aren't going to be bald.
Well, yeah, I'm bored. I'm gonna be bored. It's a given. The next time I go to Umrah or Hajj and I'm taking that off, I don't know if that baby's gonna grow back. So just gonna enjoy it now.
Well, now you can make Umrah on a tourist visa. So
Yeah.
you guys got it easy. Just
Yeah.
catch a EasyJet flight to Jeddah
You can get
and go make Umrah.
Yeah, you can get a
90 days.
E visa, right?
E visa. You can also get it when you land.
No.
Yes, for certain countries, and I know America, I'm sure England is the same. You can get it the same way you get it when I come here. You just get the visa at the airport.
But is there not that limit of how many times you can go though? Still, does that exist?
I don't think they put a limit on it.
There was a limit on it, but I think they were trying to get it removed. I heard.
Even the limit, I think, was a few times a year.
Oh, maybe.
You at least come back a few times a year.
Yeah.
And that also makes it open for like brothers who want to be serious about studying now. Like, yes, you might not get accepted at the university in Medina, but even if you went once a year for 90 days during the summertime when they have all the summer dawra
even in the
ilmiya, all,
masajid, yeah.
you know, they have all those summer deep programs with the mashaykh.
Yeah.
Go there for just the summertime and learn. Make that your annual holiday or whatever.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
because it's not very expensive to stay in Medina. You don't need to stay at the Intercontinental 5-star.
No.
And for me, to be honest with you, I could be homeless in Medina. For anyone who's been to Medina probably understands that you could be homeless in Medina and it doesn't really bother you. If you have food to eat and somewhere that you could shower, like I knew a lot of brothers who went to the Jamia. I would go in the summertime back in the day when I used to go regularly. I'd go in the summertime and just hang out. I'd get a hotel for one day because you used to have a hotel in order to get through in the visa and all that.
I see.
Have a hotel for one day and just hang out with brothers from the Jamia. Like, I'll sleep on your couch. I'll sleep at the Masjid Nabawi. I just need to take a shower after Fajr. I'm cool with that. Just being a nomad in Medina is fine.
Yeah, it's Medina, innit?
For 90 days.
You don't
a
go to Medina to
90-day
stay in the hotel.
Homeless trip to Medina to me sounds like perfection.
Yeah.
You know?
Nobody goes to Medina to stay in the hotel.
No.
What a waste of a trip.
It's a waste of a trip. You either sleep in the masjid, you know, you do something like, I literally go sleep under some of the palm trees, like in the roundabouts in Medina, and I'd be fine. There are people who do that. You know, the brothers you see sitting out having tea till like Fajr in the morning, lay out their blanket. I'm cool with that. So brothers have opportunity now to go and seek knowledge in Medina and just sit with, you know, some of the ulama. 90 days is better than no days.
When I was there in Ramadan last year, and breaking bread in Medina is just amazing, man. Just opening fast and in the masjid.
You know you're going to have iftar Mondays and Thursdays.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. That's
yeah.
true. Yeah, man, it's something else. Yusha, thank you so much for jumping back on the podcast. You always. Whenever you're down, you bless us with your presence, and I
We
really
need a
appreciate
6-month plan this time
Yeah.
for Sam.
I promise you, the next episode, Sam will be here.
If not,
inshallah.
what we're gonna do is we're gonna find out where he is,
We will take the
and we take
mics.
the episode to him.
Fine, deal, done.
That's it.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
Done.
Either
We're
you
done.
coming here, Sam's gonna. If you watch this, either he's coming here.
Yeah.
Or we're gonna find out where he's at. We'll do it in
Men's Fire.
in the Minspire in the
Yeah.
salon. You should do an episode in.
Yeah, we
Minspire.
want to. We plan to.
Yeah.
We plan to. But then we got this studio and we thought everything's set up. But yeah, no, we plan to. It'd be nice.
Just a rogue episode.
Yeah. You haven't met Josh, have you? Josh LaMonica.
Yes.
Oh, you have.
I have.
Yeah, Josh is a good guy, man.
I've met Josh a couple times when I
Okay.
went up to St. Albans.
Okay, fine.
And I need to make a trip to St. Albans anyway. I need to visit the shop.
Yeah. And the King's Cross one, maybe?
The food shop,
Oh, 59.
59.
Yeah.
Because
That's not Sam's anymore, you know that?
It's not Sam's anymore?
Nah, he sold it.
He sold it?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's still great, though.
The quality stayed the same?
Yeah.
Because the avocado toast.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It is good. It's a good shop. I still go there. It's good. D, who runs it, is amazing guy as well.
Well, it's almost, you're going to go there because it's right next to Minspire. It's
Yeah,
right
exactly.
there.
Exactly.
But yes, next time, inshallah, if
Inshallah.
we're all alive, we have to have Sam on.
Inshallah. Barakallahu feek. Yusha, jazakallah khair for coming
It's always
down
my
again.
pleasure,
We'll see you
Habibi.
soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.